Hi, welcome to the Juno Files. I'm Jim Juno, and I have with me the gentleman who currently has the #1 bestseller on Amazon in the political among the political books. Peter Navarro, Dr. Navarro, welcome to the Juno Files.
Yeah, and the book is called Trump Time. In Trump Time, it's a coinage that I had early in the Trump administration, working side by side with the president. And what it means is as quickly as possible. That's what we did in the Trump administration. If you look at my background here in Washington, D.C., this is actually the Trump Hotel. And that's the Trump Tower where it tells in Trump time, right? In physically. So
fantastic.
Yeah, but the book itself, In Trump Time, it's a really important history and journal of the last year of the Trump administration. I actually kept a daily journal. I wanted to do that for history's sake, and also to hold people accountable. And it's more or less a 3-act play. In the beginning of the book, as the Chinese communists come to town and we become aware of the pandemic, I spent a lot of my time fighting with Anthony Fauci as I'm trying to help the president fight the pandemic. In the middle of the book deals a lot with our troubles with communist China and the economy and things like that. And then at the end of the book, we deal with the difficult questions of what happened on January 6th and what happened on the election day. So what I'm trying to do is get to the truth of the matter. I appreciate this platform here because there's a lot of the left-wing books, Woodward, Rutgers, these guys, it's propaganda. They sell a lot of their books with the help of the corporate media, but it's people like you, sir, who can help me access the real Americans out there, the deplorables who have really been damaged by the Biden regime and who need to get the truth in Trump time about what's going on here in America.
Well, I appreciate you being on the show. I mean, this is a fantastic opportunity for me to talk to you. I really appreciate it. And a lot of people will say, "Well, why are you having Peter Navarro on the show?" I say because this is an opportunity to show all sides. If somebody who is a liberal wants to come on the show, talk about their book, I say fine. If somebody wants to come on and talk about the conservative side of it, I say great. You, my friend, have the guts to come on and not say, "I'm not going to do this because I don't know what he's going to ask." We usually talk about old movies, but you worked for a gentleman who made his living on TV before he became, and I use this term carefully, a politician. Yes. Because he's not really a politician in Donald Trump. So tell me a little bit about when the pandemic first came upon y'all.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the year 2006. Two things happened there. I wrote a book called The Coming China Wars. Mm-hmm. And in 2011, Donald Trump actually was asked by a reporter what his favorite books on China were. And he actually ranked The Coming China Wars as number 6 out of his top 10. And I was very flattered by that. I subsequently sent him a little note about it. We began corresponding. And it was from that event that I met the president. But it's also true that in that very same book, I predicted in The Coming China Wars that communist China would spark a global viral pandemic that would kill millions. Why is that important within the context of my new book, In Trump Time? It's because the book starts in chapter 1 in the East Wing of the White House with the communist Chinese in town to sign the trade deal. And I'm sitting there in the audience, knowing now that there was smoke rising from the crematoria in Wuhan, that there were warnings about this virus. And I was maybe the only person in the room besides the president who was concerned and mindful that we might be in for very, very hard times. And it was at that point where I started to work feverishly with the president in February, drafting a series of memos, which subsequently helped lead to the vaccine in record time, to therapeutics like monoclonal antibodies, to the incredible feat of making sure every American who needed a ventilator had a ventilator. And it was a great pleasure to work by the president's side and watch him work in Trump time to solve these problems, which came upon us like a Cat 5 hurricane.
Well, he faced issues which would have been a crisis for any president. The pandemic, but he had such a great economy going into it. I really expected him not to. Well, I really expected him to win re-election quite easily. But, it seemed like the pandemic just put everything on hold.
Well, it may be that he did win re-election quite easily. I spent a lot of time at the end of the book parsing the data and what happened in the battleground states. And the recent news from Arizona suggests that he won Arizona. But I think what's really important about what happened was that, he as a president, going back to the campaign in 2016, we had a strategy, we had a plan. It was a 6-phase plan. We were going to cut corporate taxes, not to enrich the corporations, but to encourage them to bring jobs on shore. We're going to deregulate the lower costs and make us more competitive. We were going to strategically dominate the energy sector with fracking, with oil, natural gas, and we were going to have fair trade for American workers. We were going to increase our defense budget, and we were going to have buy American, hire Americans, the rule of the land. And you know what? That worked like a charm. It worked like an absolute charm. By the time January of 2020 rolling around, I'm sitting in the East Wing watching the president. We had built the strongest economy in modern history. And you can see now with Biden, hey, Joe, it's harder than it looks. I mean, we went in there and a lot of us didn't have any previous government experience, but we got it done. I mean, at the end of the day, we got it done. And so people didn't like him tweeting. So what? I think they long for the days now of stable, strong economic growth, zero inflation, a secure border, peace with North Korea, peace with Iran, peace through strength. Instead, these are perilous times. And the book In Trump Time basically explains how we got from there to here. And we really need to have an epiphany about what's going on. One of the villains of the book, rightly so, is Anthony Fauci. I mean, I met him. Chapter 2 in the book is my first showdown, effectively, with Anthony Fauci in the Situation Room over the China travel ban. And never met him before. Within 3 minutes, I was in a violent argument with him. Within 5 minutes, I thought he was somebody who thought he was a lot smarter than he was and who was going to hurt the president in this country. And I was right. That man caused tremendous damage and still is causing tremendous damage with his behavior and his erratic behavior and bad wisdom not based on science.
Well, what? Let me ask you, what caused that initial argument?
So I'll set the stage for you. The Situation Room is like one of the most famous and iconic rooms in the world. It came about after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Kennedy wanted to have essentially a war room where he could make sure our national security was in sight. It was January 28th, 2020. The boss sent me down there to bring over the task force to his side in support of the travel ban on China, which is to say we were going to take down all incoming flights from China into the U.S. The boss rightly wanted to do that because we were getting 20,000 Chinese nationals a day coming into the country. And we knew at that point that it was likely a significant amount of them might be seeding and spreading the virus as they arrived. And so I went down to the sit room and, Mulvaney, the chief of staff's down at the end of the table chairing the meeting. I got Pompeo's guy on my left shoulder, Redfield's across from me. I knew him. Azar, the head of HHS. I knew him. There's this guy sitting across from me, round glasses, little guy. Never seen him before. Didn't know he walked on water. Didn't know he had sainthood. Didn't know he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And literally within 3 minutes, I'm in a shouting match with him, and he's violently supportive of the travel of not having the travel ban. And I'm having, let's go, dude, what's going on here, man? It's like we got 20,000 Chinese nationals coming in, and we got a possible pandemic here. What's wrong with you? And that was the beginning. And there's a story about how I penned a famous memo in there, which is now an important historical document. Turned the task force around on a dime, including him. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. But that was hardly my first encounter with Fauci. And it turned out, I mean, it's so ironic. And if you did it as a Hollywood script, they'd reject it because it's like, no, that couldn't have happened. But it turns out that Anthony Fauci was the guy who funded the lab in Wuhan, China, and authorized the Frankenstein gain-of-function experiments that actually, in all probability, gave rise to the virus that is now killing people around the world. That's on Fauci's hands, and it's on the Chinese Communist Party's hands for not containing that virus. And after you get finished reading in Trump time, you will want Fauci out of government and in a chair up on Capitol Hill answering for his crimes.
What did President Trump did you take your feelings about Fauci to him?
Yeah, we had he knew Fauci was a bad guy. I recommended Fauci get fired several times, but the problem was, I'm the trade advisor, right? So so even as I'm saying, get rid of that guy, he's going to hurt you. Well, you had Azar backing him, you had Redfield backing him, you had the healthcare bureaucracy, you had nervous Nellies in the political parts of the administration. No, he's too iconic to touch. And for whatever reason, he stuck around, and he killed a lot of people in America. One of the things I get into a big fight with him again in the Situation Room is over the use of hydroxychloroquine, which probably most of the people watching this show probably think can hurt you. It can help you. It saves lives. In fact, the scientific studies now that we have show that it reduces the mortality rate by well over 50%, which means that if I had been able to distribute hydroxychloroquine to the American people in the quantities I had 60 million tablets of that stuff, there would be hundreds of thousands of Americans alive today who are instead rotting in the grave because of Anthony Fauci.
Let me ask you a name I want to throw at you real quick. Dr. Burks. Because did she work with Fauci, or, was she as complicit as Fauci was?
No, Burks is a complicated person. The good thing I will say about Deb is that she had the courage, and she's a decorated military officer, unafraid. She had the courage to go out on point into our local communities and hot zones throughout the pandemic and try to manage that. And basically, one of the things that happened is, as she was doing that, she got undercut by people like Fauci. And at the end, I think that made her a little bitter towards the president and the White House, and her behavior at the end, I certainly did not think was good for either the country or the president. But she was a good soldier for much of that journey. And I would say that the bad guys here were more Fauci, certainly. Blood on that guy's hands. Stephen Hahn at the FDA, Redfield was more incompetent than malicious. But we did a heck of a job considering the uncertainty we faced and the resources we had at our hands. But the one thing I'll tell you is that if I had known then what I know now about Fauci and the virus and its genetic engineering, we would have adopted a completely different strategy and saved a bunch of lives. And again, that's on Tony Fauci. He killed Americans with his scheming and bad advice.
See, that really stuns me that he's supposed to be the head doctor in the United States. Or
yeah, he's 80 years old. He's been a highest paid bureaucrat in the U.S. government, and he got there by basically pandering to big pharma, and big pharma certainly had no love for Donald Trump as well. What Fauci is good at is just being on TV and spouting nonsense. And I think particularly in the early stage of the pandemic, people were looking for a reassuring voice and face. He popped up, but everything that came out of his mouth tended to be wrong. I mean, the day I penned that memo saying that we could have a vaccine within 9 months, we hit that mark. Fauci's telling the media that there's no problem. We don't need a vaccine. And then later on, he's saying it's going to take 2 years. I was right. He was wrong. I fought him publicly. I took a lot of heat for that, but I don't regret that. And I give you the inside story in the book In Trump Time of all the details of that. And I promise you, you get to the end of that book, you'll want Fauci gone for very good reasons.
You know, I got to throw a name at you, and you're gonna think, what is he talking about? Because but the comedian Bill Maher said something on his last show that said that drugs. Well, he was talking about ivermectin.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, ivermectin is not a politician. It's not a left wing leaning or a right wing leaning politician. It's a drug, and it's proven. And there's been some results showing now that ivermectin may be beneficial in some way. But the media has made it out to be a left-wing, a right-wing propaganda thing. Is that what Fauci did with, like, say, I cannot say this word. Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, just call it hydroxy if you want to make it easy. Yeah, that's exactly what he did. Again, in the book In Trump Time, I'm in with the Vice President Fauci and others, and we have a knockdown, drag out fight over hydroxychloroquine. He insists that it doesn't work. I say the science says it does, and I'm right. I'm right today. And, you know, Bill Maher, if Bill Maher really had courage, he'd be talking about hydroxychloroquine as well, because both hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, science shows unequivocally with hydroxychloroquine, it's used all over the world, by the way, that it saves lives. It can cut the mortality rate by more than half. Ivermectin appears to have strong antiviral properties. Yet we're pursuing a strategy of vaccinations only, with a vaccine which is leaky, meaning you can still get the disease from it, and non-durable, meaning that you're going to have to get boosters for the rest of your life on this. And the tragedy here is that people who get COVID develop far stronger antibodies than people who get vaccinated. Yet these people who get COVID are being forced to get that vaccination if they want their job or they want to send their kids to school. It's just so wrong. And when I was helping the president get that vaccine developed for people who really need it, like senior citizens and people with comorbidities, I never imagined that it would become a tool, an economic weapon to be used against American citizens. And that's exactly what the Biden administration is doing. And people are angry about this. People are angry. And there's a lot of people willing to lose their job so that they can make their own choice about a vaccine, which need not be taken by a majority of Americans who are not in the vulnerable groups.
Wouldn't you think that this is something which always puzzled me, is that the Trump administration, Donald Trump, I'll give him credit for this, is that he got a vaccine. Operation Warp Speed worked. We got a vaccine. Why is it that a lot of people who are Trump supporters will not take it?
That's the question, and I go back to the In Trump Time book. I'm sitting in chapter 4, I think it is, in my office on February 9th, and sending out memos to the task force. And we knew right at the outset a couple of things. One is that the vaccine would not be a silver bullet. Okay, vaccines are difficult to develop, and they're always imperfect. Okay, they have side effects, and they're not 100%. We knew that going in, and because we knew that it was also important to have a broad spectrum of these therapeutics: monoclonal antibodies, remdesivir, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, zinc, vitamin D, all of these things. And I think the great resentment of conservatives right now about the vaccine has to do with the fact that a lot of them are in groups, cohorts that really don't require the vaccine to live a healthy life. If you think about the vaccine, it's ridiculous to give it to children. It's just damn foolish. I mean, you can really harm children. Young women of reproductive age, there's issues with menstruation cycles. Pro athletes, these NFL and NBA stars who are saying, no, when they're telling you why, it's like, hey, I had the COVID, I got antibodies. Why do you want me to risk myocarditis or pericarditis by taking that vaccine? So I think conservatives and we're seeing in polling, much of the country resent the fact that they're being forced to take a vaccine that poses some risk to them that may outweigh any benefits they might get. I'll be the first to say, if you're over 60, if you got comorbidities, if you're a kid with leukemia, God forbid, the vaccine on your choice should be done. But if you're healthy, young, it just creates more problems and risks than it cures.
Let's switch gears just for a moment, because we've talked a lot about the vaccine, and yes, the book is about how the pandemic affected the last year of the Trump administration, Trump presidency. But also, you mentioned Mike Pence has been in the news recently.
Yeah,
and he does not come off looking good in anybody's book, yours included. I mean, that's the one thing I've always found, that the right wing and the left wing books have in common. They all hate Pence.
So the In Trump Time book, by the way, just so your viewers know, it's going to be out on the anniversary of the election on November 3rd, but you can get it in pre-order now on Amazon, and I ask you to do that. It's gone up as high as 3 on overall Amazon, and I think you pointed out it's number 1 in political conservatism and liberalism. We've sold over 120,000 copies, and there's a good reason, because it's the only book on the market that gets to the truth of what happened, and it's the definitive insider's account. I will have a big reveal about Pence, but the short story is he betrayed Donald Trump, and I will give you the nuts and bolts of that. And as far as I'm concerned, by the time people get finished reading In Trump Time, Fauci will be out of a job, and Pence's political career will be over for all practical purposes, as it should be.
Fantastic. Well, Peter Navarro, I appreciate you taking time and coming on the show, the Junot Files. The book, like you said, is In Trump Time. It comes out on November 3rd, but you can pre-order it now on Amazon. And you stole my ending here. Number 3 overall, and number 1 in political conservative, political books, actually, I believe. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Well, again, thank you for being on the Junot Files tonight.
Thank you, sir. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Take care.